What you're listening to right now, Bach's Prelude number 8 from the Well-Tempered Clavier, played on the piano you hear it on, sounds nothing like what it would have sounded like when it was written in 1722. Why is that, you ask? Well, we have a number of tuning systems that we've used throughout history that greatly affect not only how music sounds, not only how it was written, but how it changes, what it means, and what it embodies when it's performed. Now you might be wondering, Tommy, how many tuning systems are there? How am I supposed to know which one they're using and what's going on? Well, don't worry, I've made you the most beautiful, perfect graph for you to be able to tell what's going on that we'll be using throughout the video, so you can kind of get a sense of what I'm talking about and also kind of see it within time period. Traveling back to ancient Greece, or somewhere around there, we see a random Greece mathematician and scholar trying to decide, with our music, how am I supposed to make a scale, and how am I supposed to make it consistent with everything else? As you would, you travel back and say, I know how to make a scale. I know how they work. You tell the random Greek person that we use 12 equal divisions of the octave, such as a piano, for a scale. This covers all the chromatic pitches that we use, and for each half step or semitone is 100 cents in between each of those steps. Confused to say piano, half step, what is any of that? You show them on your phone that you can easily play any pitch that you can imagine using something like a tuner, and they confusingly go back to their gut string box. Looking at this phenomenon with string lengths and finding ways to get intervals, one of the ways that they did it was thinking about ratios. Something you'll notice is that if we try to get an octave that is always related by 2s, or the power of 2, want to get 1 octave, you can just play half of the string length. So we see here. Then for an octave. Now if you want to try and get a fourth, a simple way we can do that is by playing 3/4 of the string length. Same thing you can do with a fifth and 2/3. One of our first examples of a tuning scale that we have access to is known as the Pythagorean scale. Not related to the dude with the triangles, but what it is related to is this idea of ratios, especially with our fourths and fifths. Something that we see across the scale is those 3/4 fourths and the 3/2 fifths that completely make up every single interval using something called the circle of fifths. As we see here, Michaud's Kyrie is a perfect example of why the Pythagorean scale was built how it was and how it affected music theory of the time. When you try to add in some of those thirds with the F sharp and the C sharp, they sound a lot different than how it would in our equal temperament today. If you ever hear from a theory scholar that they just didn't use thirds for some reason, it is not accurate. It's because of the tuning systems that they had back then, and that there was no more consonant third available to them at the time. After a few centuries, the Pythagorean scale started to get a little dated. You see, diatonic scales, like what we've seen in the Kyrie so far, usually work out pretty okay. But what you'll notice once we start to get to Michaud's time is when you start to try and add these chromatic pitches, they're so far away from the fifths and fourths that the scale is built off of, they're either insanely high ratios, making them barely consonant, if at all, or we start to notice that the enharmonics that we get once we start to go far enough in the circle do not line up with the enharmonic equivalents of the note. The Pythagorean enharmonics completely do not line up. If we take a regular C, E, and G and try to change them to something like B sharp, D double sharp, and F double sharp, they are almost 20 cents different. E sharp does not equal F, B sharp does not equal C. It slowly becomes more of a spiral of fifths rather than a circle.
Hi, I am very ugly, but you should enjoy the movie anyway. Excuse me, sir. I hope my horrible ugliness won't be a distraction to you.
Not at all, boy!
One of our first examples of mean tone temperament is found with this English round, Summer Is A-Comin' In. But something that's really interesting to listen for is these thirds and sixth harmonies and how different it can sound in mean tone versus equal temperament or something else that you might expect. That third difference is one of the main parts of this video and why it is made. The huge change that can happen when you listen to a pure third versus what we have access to in our standard tuning is incredible how big of a difference it can make. When did this change? Well, mean tone temperament was when thirds were now finally consonant and brought down from England with a few different...
Hey, I don't fully understand. I don't understand the Pythagorean still. Why are you moving on? Why are you killing great shows?
I don't
That
understand
has nothing
what
to do.
I
with
thought that's what
whatever
they used
none
for
of the
so
music
long.
things you're doing before.
Alright, listen. I don't have a lot of time. I need this to lean closer to a 10-minute video than a semester-long course. So we're just going to go through the very basics. Alright. Mean tone means that the thirds are all pure just sizes and the fifths are no longer pure and just sizes. Do Faes C'est la fa c'est Paul is another great example using mean tone where the French did start to use this new mean tone tuning system. Now when we do have those fifths, because they would be out of tune alone, is why we need that third inside of it. Another music theory rule you might have heard is that you don't want to leave just open fifths. This is part of the reason why, because now, when we have this perfectly in tune third, we stick it right inside of that fifth for a triad, and it works like a charm. The reason it's called mean tone is that in between a C and a just third E, that D is the geometric mean in between those two notes. Now, this temperament has no enharmonics, so there still is no A flat, A sharp. There are now several notes that literally just do not exist inside of this temperament, and that is why you'll notice in music of that time period that it just does not have anything inside of those keys. I'm using my phone to record it. And the keys that it was made for, it fared so much better than any other tuning available so far, especially with pure intervals. Continuing with mean tone, you'll notice that the chords are a lot more in tune than what equal temperament might make you expect. A lot of these changes where they do try to make it more chromatically altered isn't always as altered as you might expect, because it is still one of those chords that's available to us inside of the mean tone system. Man, if only there was a way to get the fourths and fifths from our Pythagorean scale, yet everything else about mean tone inside of one tuning system. Ah yes, finally, Bach's Prelude in the key and tuning system that it was designed to be in the entire time. It has grace, it has key color, it has everything you could possibly ask for inside of a song. It's how all of these historical tunings and songs should be performed to be accurate. I wonder how our next tuning system will build off of all of these great qualities and what makes equal temperament the dominant standard. Well, after dancing around the topic for different tuning systems, it's finally time to address it directly. The ultimate compromise was made. Equal temperament has the fewest interval sizes out of any tuning system because all of the semitones, all of the steps between each note is 100 cents. But because of this, there's no more key color. Equal temperament also has no consonant intervals besides the octave. St. Olaf has all of their instruments, all of the pianos on campus still do not follow equal temperament because it does not sound in tune. Now, lastly, I want to present this tuning chart. It is the culmination of the time and effort that I've spent learning on this project. It includes 5 different categories for the music that we've looked at. All of the just and pure interval sizes, and then it also includes Pythagorean tuning, mean tone temperament, well temperament, and equal temperament. It also has each of these notes and each of the sizes of intervals as ratios, hertz, and cents. It also has intervals of diminished, minor, major, and augmented, all listed inside of the chart. Overall, just know that there's more available than what a standard piano or our radio might tell you for things like key colors, intervals, and ways that we can make music today. With technology like MuseScore and other things available, there is not a better time to challenge ourselves to create more historically accurate and consonant performance making.